Welcome to the deep dive. You're looking to quickly get up to speed on the historical context
hmm
and potential paths to peace in Kurdistan.
And that's exactly what we're digging into. We've got sources covering the history, the resistance, and specific proposals for resolution.
Yeah, our goal here is to pull out the really crucial insights for you without getting lost in, excessive detail. So, where should we start?
Well, I think the history is the place to begin.
Yeah.
North Kurdistan under Turkish control for, well, over 100 years now.
Okay.
And a key theme in the sources is this claim of resource exploitation happening alongside significant limits on Kurdish identity.
Limits on language, culture, rights to self-govern, that kind of thing.
Exactly, all those aspects. It's a long-standing pattern described in the materials.
Right, so that tension,
Yeah.
it's been simmering for a long time. And the sources show it wasn't passive, there was resistance.
Absolutely. The materials detail repeated Kurdish uprisings, people pushing for basic rights and freedoms. But these efforts, they were often met with really strong suppression. Significant casualties mentioned.
A tough cycle.
Mhm.
Restriction, then resistance, then suppression.
Precisely. And understanding that cycle is pretty key to understanding why there's such a push for a lasting peace now.
Which, yeah, brings us to the current situation. Discussions about ending decades of conflict. The PKK insurgency is part of that context, too.
It is. But a major concern highlighted in our sources is whether these talks will, actually tackle the fundamental issues, the root causes.
Or just kind of paper over the cracks, so to speak.
That's the worry expressed. One source dives right into this, outlining very specific requirements for what it calls a real peace.
These aren't just vague ideas, are they? The proposals seem quite concrete.
Very concrete. For instance, demanding direct affirmative economic investment in Kurdistan. The idea is to tackle those historical imbalances.
So actual investment to create change, not just words.
Exactly. And it's not only economic, there's a huge emphasis on funding institutions. Things that support Kurdish language, culture.
Mother tongue education comes up specifically, I remember.
Yes, very specifically. And interestingly, the proposal suggests shifting funds away from military and religious affairs towards these cultural and educational investments.
That signals a pretty major shift in priorities.
It really does. And then there's the governance proposal, a confederal system.
Okay, that sounds significant. What does that mean in practice, according to the source?
Well, think of it like a federated status. Kurdistan would have its own parliament, its own police, local security forces, control over the education system.
So, quite a degree of autonomy.
A significant degree, yes. The core idea presented is peace built on equal standing, mutual respect between the parties.
And beyond the governance structure, there are other elements needed for this peace to actually last.
Definitely. Things crucial for healing and stability, like investigating past human rights violations, setting up justice mechanisms.
Accountability, basically.
Yes. And constitutional guarantees for cultural and linguistic rights are seen as vital too. Plus, addressing the legacy of forced migration rights, of return, compensation.
Complex issues.
Very. The proposals even mention joint historical reconciliation commissions and international guarantees to sort of oversee the process.
That thoroughness really stands out. And our other source touches on similar things, especially self-determination and language.
It does. It really stresses discussing the Kurds' path and maybe federation, maybe other forms of self-governance, all within that framework of self-determination.
And it emphasizes doing this openly, democratically.
Yes, discussing these rights, particularly mother tongue education, at what it calls a democratic intellectual level, not shying away from the core issues.
So if we're pulling it all together for you, the listener, what are the main takeaways?
I'd say it's the deep historical grievances, this persistent drive for self-governance and cultural recognition, and then these very specific proposals for peace.
Proposals centered on equality, investment, and mutual respect.
Exactly. And the aha moment, perhaps, is seeing how interconnected it all is. The history fuels the resistance, which shapes the demands for peace today. It's about addressing the roots.
Which leaves us with something for you to think about. When you consider these intricate situations, balancing national unity with the rights and aspirations of distinct groups like the Kurds, what fundamental principles do you think should guide peace processes like this anywhere in the world? Definitely some food for thought. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.